Call to order the St. Joseph City Council of November 15th. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oops. Is this working? Are they on? Okay. They're just, I know that, but they're not green here, so I didn't know the microphones are on. Okay. Okay, very good. Item 2, public comments. Anybody wishing to address the council? Okay, item 3, approval of the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Motion and second on approval of the agenda. Any issues or concerns, changes? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion does indeed carry. Item 4, consent agenda.
I'll move on to consent. Second.
Motion and second on the consent. Any issues or concerns, anyone? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion does indeed carry. Item 5, delinquent, public hearing delinquent. Lori?
Yeah, I don't have
Okay.
the green light.
What?
I don't have the green light, so I
Yeah,
have to
I
assume
thought-
that's the new way. Yeah, so tonight we have some final utility billing accounts that have not been paid, and typically, once or twice a year, we bring these to the city council for certification potential to taxes to collect. We sent out notifications and published the public hearing. We had, I don't have my listing here, there was roughly, I don't know, just maybe about 10 accounts that were unpaid. We have received a few of those payments, and we're getting calls and people making plans for payments. So I think in the end of the day, there'll be very few that actually will end up on taxes, but kind of going through the formality to try to help clear these out. And right now, what we're looking at is, at the time we published the public hearing, we had just over $2,000 worth of unpaid final accounts. We charge a $50 assessment fee if they do not pay it before they show up on the property tax statement. So they have until December 15th to pay, and we'll waive that $50 fee if we don't have to send it to the county. So it is a public hearing that we have to have for the delinquent accounts, and so.
Thank you, Lori. With that being said, we'll open the public hearing. Anybody wants to address the delinquent account listings, please come to the podium, name, address. Seeing no one come forward, and close the public hearing, then look at resolution 2257, adopting outstanding.
Second.
Motion and second, adopting resolution 2022-057, adopting the assessment outstanding invoices. Any issues or concerns?
No, I just have a question.
Yep.
The top one, same address, 2 different payment amounts.
They actually did have, that property did change hands a couple times
Okay.
in that year. One sale took place last December, and we did certify in March, but it wasn't delinquent yet at that time, so we didn't certify back in March. So this is the first time that we've done that since then, and changed hands twice.
Okay, that was my only question.
Thanks, John. Motion and second, adopting resolution 2022-057. Any other concerns or questions? All those in favor signify by aye.
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 Opposed? Motion does indeed carry. Thanks, Lori. Canvass of the election.
Yes, good
Kayla?
evening. So required by statute that between the 3rd and 10th day after the general election, the council must serve as the canvassing board and declare the results of the election. Included in your packet is that abstract of votes cast that was provided by Stearns County. And then I also did provide you with the write-in information printed out as well. And so the request this evening is to approve resolution 2022-058, canvassing the general election returns and declaring the winning candidates to be Rick Schultz for mayor and Kevin Klusner and Adam Saponiak for city council.
So moved. On 2022-58.
Second.
Motion and second, approving resolution 2022-58. Questions or concerns? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion does carry. Ordinance amendment.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and members of the council. For your consideration this evening, staff has received an ordinance amendment request to allow gyms, athletic facilities within a I-1 light industrial district. The amendment would allow gyms and indoor athletic facilities in our I-1 light industrial district. Overall, it's pretty common to see this use in industrial areas, whether that's new construction or it's a adaptive reuse of a building, essentially a remodel of a old industrial building into a club or a gym or similar type of use. Staff does believe that this amendment is a good fit both in the short term and long term. So even if this request doesn't necessarily work out per se, we do see it as a good fit for both the short-term benefit and long-term benefit. It creates some flexibility and allows some additional opportunities in our industrial park area. So it does meet our comprehensive plan goal of continuing to review land use standards and update those as necessary. The Planning Commission did conduct a public hearing last night. We only had the applicant that spoke, no one else at that public hearing. And then the Planning Commission did recommend approval of the ordinance amendment with a vote of 6-0. And for your consideration, the applicant is here this evening. It would be two motions. The first motion would be approving ordinance 2022-010, which is amending the ordinance to allow as a permitted use. And the second motion is approving the resolution 2022-055, which is the summary ordinance publication. So with that, I'd be happy to answer questions.
I'll move on the amendment 2022-012 for approval based upon planning commission's approval recommendation.
I'll second.
Motion and second, ordinance 2022-10, amending the ordinance. Any questions or concerns? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
I also move on ordinance resolution 2022-055 for summary publication of ordinance 2022-010.
Second.
For ordinance amendment.
Motion and second, resolution 2022-55 for the summary publication. Any other questions or concerns? All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Told you that would be easy. Yeah, you guys can go now. Just kidding.
You can also stay for the rest of the meeting.
Nah, they don't want to. Okay. City admin, this is the, what are we on? 8, city administrator page, position wage scale.
Okay, thank you. So the job description has been almost completed, and the advertising brochure has been completed as well, and we're on our way towards going out on the market for a new city administrator. As part of that process, of course, we do need to set the wage for that, and as you know, there was a salary study that was completed in anticipation of this event, and also, you know, as far as salaries for 2022. And as a result of that wage study, was determined that the proper salary for that position starting would be $104,000 to $141,198. So consistent with the results of that study, trying to get set a salary range that is competitive but not over the top as far as pay goes, that in the estimation of the consulting working on this is hitting the sweet spot. And with that information from Charlene Stevens, she thinks this is a good range and it fits the marketplace pretty well. And with that, I think we'd all recommend that the council authorize the advertisement to be submitted and opened up with that pay scale accordingly. So that's all I have on that topic.
Jeff, what kind of approval are you looking for here? Some kind of?
Just, I guess a motion just approving.
To approve the salary
consider
range?
approval of the salary range for city administrator.
Okay.
104.
I second.
Motion and second, approving the salary range as requested here in the council action. Questions or concerns?
Yes.
Yeah, John.
So you say, what is the sweet spot?
Well, you don't know until after you get the applications in,
Okay.
really, but according to Charlene, who has done many of these recruitments lately, she knows kind of what the range is, and she felt that this range as presented will yield qualified candidates.
Okay, I see, obviously, we did see the study. And again, can you tell me, what is the percentage of the mead compared to other cities of our same size of what this is? You know, we talked about, could be 50% all the way up to 60%, all the way up to 70% up to
Right,
mean.
this-
Where are we at in the
This would
city?
be considered to be at mean or average for communities of
50%.
our like communities. So it's right, it's not underpaid, it's not high relatively, it's trying to hit that middle.
So you're saying we're kind of right in the middle with this range
Right
compared to
in
other
the middle.
cities? Okay. That's all I had.
Okay, other questions or concerns? Motion and second to approve the salary range for city administrator posted at here on qualifications for seven-step system. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thanks, Jeff.
Yep.
We're all up, way up to Public Works.
Yeah, so,
Approved source water grant.
yep, source water grant, so if you guys remember, a couple sessions ago, we finished up with part one of the wellhead protection plan. We held a very short public meeting, now we are entering into part two of that wellhead protection plan process, and, this is basically just a water grant application through the Minnesota Department of Health. It's a 50% match grant application. This is a funded project for the city, but I stumbled across this grant, so why not take advantage of it? Just looking for a motion.
I'll move.
Second.
What are we moving on?
So we're moving to
Approve the
accept
grant?
Yeah,
Approve the grant application?
Yeah,
Okay.
to submit the grant application.
So motion and second to approve the water grant app.
Yep. We don't have the grant yet.
No,
Just the application.
just the application process, yeah.
Could you summarize what this grant will cover, what's gonna all happen?
It should cover close to 50% of the part two of the wellhead protection plan that.
Yeah, but part two, is that mainly, is it a physical movement, or is it just a paperwork
It's paper.
with numbers and
Yeah.
everything else that go with it? Okay.
Randy and his guys put all the work into it.
So it's a lot of, if you recall, in part two, a lot of that effort is potential contaminant sources and identifying potential contaminant sources. So that's one of the focus areas of the grant application.
So it's a lot of review of data to come up with a
Yeah.
conclusion of what.
Sometimes sampling, but yes, review of various sources of potential contaminants.
Other questions? Motion and second to approve water grant application. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion does carry. Let's get into the department reports. Jeff?
Wait.
Oh, wait, did I forget one?
Engineering.
Oh, I was trying to skip.
He jumped again. Go
Wait a
ahead.
minute. I don't have 10 on my online.
What's that?
I don't have 10 online.
Are you lying?
Online, when you download the agenda, there's no 10.
Yeah.
I'm looking
Should
at
be, I
it.
did.
10, engineer report.
All right, 10, engineering reports. Now, serious, I got it.
You'll have to show me that.
I will. 9, department reports.
Yeah. And then we're at
10, we're on engineering report.
Good evening.
Sorry, Randy,
That's okay, I'll still be quick nonetheless.
my bad.
Staff are seeking some council direction with respect to what we understand might be the 2023 street improvement project lineup. So on the map in front of you, I have kind of a global map to review a couple project areas. The council's aware that we have since the 2019 update, we've had the pavement maintenance plan each year that identifies existing streets that would potentially be resurfaced for the longevity of the street. And so those two areas identified in the plan are in the Northland Plat 4 and 5 neighborhoods on each side of Northland Drive, so this several block area. This is immediately south of the area that we had improved in 2021. So the council may recall, we resurfaced the streets and also extended the sidewalk down Northland Drive down to Gumtree. And so now the next phase of those street resurfacing improvements, at least in our schedule with the pavement maintenance plan, would be plats 4 and 5. Similarly, I would describe it as the Ash Street area, 2nd Avenue, parts of Loso's 2nd, 4th, and 5th editions. So each of these streets in these two sections of the city are approaching between 20 and 23 years old. So if you recall, that's, if I could use the term sweet spot again, that's the sweet spot where we're typically looking at edge mills and overlays to improve that longevity of the street to our 30, 35-year mark. So those two areas were identified in the pavement maintenance plan. One additional area that I did not include in this map, but we're anticipating addressing with the Elm Street improvements that the council has ordered in, this portion of Elm Street, if I can zoom in here. Oops. Bear with me.
Really, Randy, I'm trying to keep pace with your arrow.
Me too.
I'm going blind.
Me too. If I zoom in here. So the cul-de-sac portion of Elm Street, this is also in our forecast, but I'm anticipating that when we contemplate the Elm Street improvement from Northland Drive over to County Road 133, that we'll pick up this section as part of the Elm Street improvements that you've already ordered the preliminary design phase in. Moving back, zooming back out. In support of the Trobex bus site work, one area that we've had pending since the Trobex bus site had been improved was the extension, removal of the temporary cul-de-sac and the extension of First Street further east to that 24th Avenue corridor. So this will provide or allow Trobex bus to have their southerly access as well as that access point to the Knife River addition. So both of those plats had been approved within the last 1 to 2 years. So extending the storm sewer, sewer and water, as well as the street reconstruction portion of First Street. So that we wanted to bundle, if you would. We didn't want to do that as a separate one block project, so we wanted to bundle with other paving work to maximize the economy of scale. So this portion has been pending. And then lastly, this was in conjunction and discussion with Public Works. Some of you may be aware of the pavement distress that we've been observing in the Northland addition. So we are proposing to reconstruct or move a portion of that storm sewer outside of the street into the boulevard area, so that if we suspect what is happening here is subsurface springs causing water to migrate from the northeast into the street. In this particular, in this area, unfortunately, much of the Northland subdivision, those streets were built with a sand section and drain tile, and despite those efforts to try to intercept any groundwater, we're still seeing water, we suspect, freeze around the storm sewer and cause the heaving that's happening to the pavement. So this area has been on Ryan's watch list and Terry's watch list actually before him for some time. So we're proposing to include that portion of the work with this project. So those are essentially the 4 areas of street infrastructure improvements that we've been considering. The next step for the council, as you recall, at least with the particularly the resurfacing improvements. We've done this as part of a Chapter 429 improvement. So we would start with the feasibility report, conduct the public improvement hearing, and follow that prescription. But that would be our next step, would be for the council to order in preparation of feasibility report. Assuming you agree with the scope that's been proposed.
Is this the only street improvement for 2023?
This would be,
This, what you just presented, the only thing?
yes.
I know there's one thing that's out of there is the alley improvements on the, west side of town.
Okay. So, yes, in fact, what has been constructed in terms of the alley improvements to date was based, I think, going back to
Right.
2016,
This is the final phase
2017.
of that section of town where there's clay pipe and et cetera.
Yes, so I guess that's part of the reason I'm bringing this up, is so if there is other interests for other project areas by the council, we'd like that direction from the council.
Yeah, I'd like that section of town to be cleaned up since that's the ongoing business movement going on in that area.
If I were to switch screens
There's
here.
one alley, one east-west alley that's totally dirt.
It's
And
in,
then it's a north-south section that's falling apart, one by the post office and intersecting Birch.
So I know there's been some previous council discussion west of Third Avenue, so this L-shaped segment is gravel. That has been one section, and I think
But-
Councilor Loso's describing,
yeah, you're talking that one, right?
This
Down
area
by the
right
post
here.
office?
Is that-
You're talking the one by the post office.
Yeah,
Right here.
And you're talking about both north, south, and east, west?
yeah. Right behind all the new
Yep.
Shannon stuff
Yep,
there,
yep.
there's a dirt alley going east and west.
And there's
then
a
there's
post office
paved
goes up.
alley that's going from Ash Street down to Birch.
Is that paved, really?
Yeah,
I
that's
think
paved.
portions of it are paved.
Yeah, the whole,
Really?
north-south is paved.
no, no.
It's pretty old. It's got tar on it.
Well,
Oh, it's got tar on it, okay, yeah.
It looks like that. Kind of blends in.
It's probably 50-year-old pavement,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
So if that's something the council would like us to add as part of the scope.
Right, and I'm not sure what's underneath there, if that's, that's part of that clay pipe,
You'd have to look at the under structure.
I'm not sure if there's clay pipe under those sections or not, or if that was taken with the, first and second overlays.
It looks like I was hoping not, but it looks like we do have a section of clay
Clay
tile
pipe.
that runs under the east-west section. So,
I think that would be nice to get out.
so as the council's recalled, but between the last two projects that we have done since, one in 2017, one in the 2021 improvements, I think the council's last action was to reconstruct the clay sewer.
Yeah.
Your preference was not to line or leave it in place. So, do I understand that would be the same marching orders if we were to look at it this time?
That's my opinion.
Yeah, I think we want to be consistent. We don't want to keep clay pipe
I
down
wasn't
there.
quite sure if there was still some, I think that's almost the last of it? Or
I
is there
thought
more?
there were some more.
There's, I'm afraid, plenty more east of
Yeah.
College Avenue.
Oh, okay. So in the redevelopment
Yeah.
area,
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
that's another,
That's as-
another one to tackle.
Yeah.
that and cast iron water main in that section of town.
I was thinking we should finish up that
let's
section
do
there,
this.
and then we can later on think about the east of the College Avenue
Let's,
situation.
so you want to add this to scope?
Is the council consensus that we'd add this plus sign, if you would, in terms of,
Plus sign and clay piping
okay,
replacement?
okay? Other,
So-
That's all my concern is for next year anyway.
If you go back to the road, I just have a couple of questions. The one that, I think it's Fur that butts to Knife River, is Knife River expected to use that?
That's supposed to just be like, access for
Right there.
maintenance. Yeah, that
Maintenance
one's
for,
maintenance, for like the tracks and that. So not traffic coming and going from there. They foresee that they would use the northern end once that gets more built out into a more transload type of arrangement.
If I
not
recall
needed,
back
is
in
it?
the conversation,
Uh,
that Knife River was gonna use that temporarily until something else happened.
What you currently see happening is when their rail load comes in, they'll use that as an entrance and exit because
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
blocked off.
And so the question is, there's no real plans to go north yet, are there?
No, and
So this is their main exit and entrance.
Or
Well,
you
from-
could say
from a-
from
from a-
the, on the north side, because they still have their access
Yep.
point, south off of,
134.
134, yeah.
Okay, okay.
And they
I'm just-
do, they do utilize that as their main.
And without that, they just go over gravel?
Yes.
Okay.
So they are coming out to the cul-de-sac now. In fact, you can,
Okay.
you can see it in this area photograph.
Yeah, I know. Well, they can go around it again. So the other question I have is, in Northland, we're gonna extend south, now to Northland for another block, like from Hemlock to whatever, from
Gumtree to
Gumtree
Ferd.
to, yeah, so close.
So I think, you know,
So we're doing, extending sidewalk as well?
we would, yes.
And the next extension all the way down to like 75 is slated for,
So that's been on the capital improvement plan for some time.
Yeah.
Because that would actually be, these sections that we're talking about now are actually curb and guttered.
Yep.
So the section south of First Street would actually be a reconstruct to an urban section. So that's been pending. That, I know Lori and I have been forecasting that would be your next municipal state aid project.
okay,
But pending really two things, trying to get as much of the life out of that existing street, and then council direction as to when you want to pull the trigger.
Yep.
So,
and I just, again, if we're not reconstructing everything, I'm fine, but at the same time, I know there's people waiting to connect trail to sidewalk to north, and that's one of those connect the dots kind of elements, along with improving the grade and runoff in that
Yes.
area.
So that will,
Does that come maybe when we do Elm?
it could, that would be a logical connection point to do at the same time.
Okay.
But you did hit on probably the overriding concern with that improvement will be stormwater management, and solving that challenge.
No doubt about that, it's gonna be a mess.
I think
So-
on paper, that's on 2024's.
It had been on our kind of radar screen for 2024, yes. But it had been kind of slipping a little bit because, again, we wanted to maximize that existing life of street.
Okay. So the last thing on Iris, do you know, is that heavy clay up there?
It is
And
silty,
that's why they put the,
the
tile
sand
in?
section and
Okay.
fabric and yeah,
So-
that's,
could that be bleeding somewhere else as well? I mean, it sounds like the same like 8th Street Northeast, where they had some clay issues when we redid that.
it could be what we believe is happening. Again, this is a bit anecdotal from some of the property owners that have lived there,
Yeah.
who have observed spring activity, is that they kind of want to work, that this drainage seems to be coming in a southwesterly direction. And because the rest of the streets are built the same way, we're not seeing the same kind of distress elsewhere in Northland.
Oh, good point. I never guessed that.
If you drive into the rest of the neighborhood, the streets are in
They're all-
serviceable condition.
They're all going southeast, they're all going with the flow.
It's very bad.
Smart. Okay, I get it. Thank you. Thank you. That's the only concerns I had.
So was, in terms of the desire to add the alleys, was it limited to, switch back to, was it limited to this one block section then?
Yes,
Okay,
along with reconstruct clay or replace
Yep.
clay.
sanitary sewer.
There's clay pipe in there, and I
Sanitary.
think the clay pipe's under a dirt alley. And then the one going north and south is full pavement. I'm not sure what's underneath that.
Hopefully, we won't find some mystery water services too, like we found
Funny,
in the last
Randy.
one.
More than likely.
Yeah,
Anything else?
very good,
Randy?
that's
I
it
have-
for me.
I have a
Yeah.
couple questions. I mean, presumably this is all to plan as far as the funding and your regular road reconstruction projects and all right in line with what you've been doing for years, so, sounds great. The question I have is on the downtown area. I presume that there's no redevelopment plans or anything in the works that might, create where we'd be premature to put in new pipe, fix the alleys up. I mean, I like the development pattern of town. It's small buildings. The alleys are used and it works great. So I don't presume there's any, but just double checking that there's nothing in the works that would.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Well,
No, so one of the properties, east of the post office will be paving their parking lot, so just coordinating, that with the alley pavement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Didn't you have that one building set possibly as a boutique hotel?
The building to the west of the
Yeah,
post
it
office
used
on
to
the
be
corner.
Yeah, that sign, or it used to be a,
Pharmacy.
yeah, clinic and.
It's a prospective site,
Okay,
yeah.
Yeah, this right here.
Nothing in stone.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
no,
all
It-
speculation.
it's like a half dozen other prospective
well,
sites,
but
yeah.
it's a good point.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the question is if there's any chance that
Mhm.
it might be used, and if it's still serviceable, you could delay until maybe it's better known, but
Mhm.
on the other hand, if you don't see that the pattern of development's gonna change, you might wanna do it now, so I don't know if that changed your thinking at all, council, but I thought I'd just throw that out there for consideration.
If there was a line of sight on potential redevelopment, at least as far as utilities are concerned, what it would mean is we might plan for some additional building services if they were gonna be in a different location. Otherwise, we'd be replacing at least the ones that follow the configuration of the lots and the buildings that you have out
And I
there.
think it would promote if you're upgraded to, modern
Again,
infrastructure.
Modern infrastructure for sure, but alleys are not roads, and so we don't wanna make them roads. I was gonna say, Minnesota LLC owns the properties to the east of the alley by the post office, except for one home, so if there would be development, it'd be north of the alley.
There's the question of the vacant lot to the south of the creamery. I don't think that has any connections right now. I don't even know what the buildability of is per se. We could probably get something there,
Okay,
but just something we should keep in mind too.
again, we can do feasibility and check, and it's not something we can set aside if we need to later on.
Right,
Okay.
okay. That's all I had.
So what I would propose, council, I probably will bring back two proposals, one for the feasibility report, and since winter's reminding us that it's right around the corner, we would probably propose to collect the topographic survey like we have in the past and set that aside until the design activity would be considered.
Did you say right around the corner?
Yeah,
It's here.
I'm calling it a dusting right now, so.
Boy, that's an
there's a
optimistic
Minnesota-
viewpoint there. Thanks, Randy.
It's a dusting.
Very good. Thanks, Randy.
Very good, thank you.
Department reports. Jeff?
Okay, I'll just quickly go through what I've provided you in writing here. But first off, I wanted to just introduce myself real briefly to the public, the community that might be watching us on TV. First of all, thank you, City Council, for appointing me as your interim administrator. I'm really excited to be here. Learned a lot in the last 2 weeks. I just want to really thank everyone in this room for all the assistance that I've received in getting to know the community, and that no one's chased me away. I really am enjoying
early.
it. I come from a background kind of similar to St. Joseph, growing community of Monticello. Worked there. That's my primary position for the last 35 years was Monticello as Community Development Director and City Administrator for the last 14 there. So very similar situation in that I've worked for a community that's about this size and in a growing environment. So it's interesting to see similar patterns, to be able to apply my experience productively in this setting. So I just wanted to start out with that, so thank you for that. As far as what's going on, obviously I'm ramping up and getting to understand the community and where I'm needed, where I can help. Some of the things I've been working on with staff is the community center project, the capital campaign committee. We're working on that. Council member Kevin and I are serving on that committee, and it's starting to ramp up and get some momentum going, so there'll be more on that in the future. Met also with the person in charge of the capital campaign committee, got a good idea of what the community center looks like, what the features are, and it's very helpful for me to know that in my role here now, because I do have pretty good experience working in a setting where we had a community center very similar to what St. Joseph is constructing, so it's kind of fun to see what you folks have been working on and how it kind of aligns with some of the good things that we were able to do in my previous position in Monticello. Other quick updates, contacted Adam with words of congratulation and let him know that staff is looking forward to providing him a thorough orientation and an onboarding process. And he's excited about that, and that will take place obviously in December sometime, hopefully in advance of him actually taking the position. The draft brochure, we talked about the city administrator position earlier tonight. The draft brochure is done. I've received some good input from staff on the detail of that. If you have a little bit longer to provide comments if you wish to. Otherwise, with the action to provide the salary, we'll get it out the door, but I'll wait probably a day until I'm sure that everyone's had their final comments on the draft. So that's in process. One other thing too, wanted to mention also doing a extra effort to understand the community and the staff and the council on some of the important topics and items of interest that you would like to pursue. Working on keep getting that inventory, and then also that will provide a great springboard for the future city administrator in getting a good start. So more to come on that, and looking forward to introducing some of that information to you soon. I guess with that, I could go on and on. I enjoyed meeting the Chamber of Commerce. Had a nice get to meet them at a luncheon a few days ago. Good active group. And then I guess with that, we'll end now with a little bit of an update on our League of Minnesota Cities meeting that did not happen. And we're not going to place blame. I'll take the blame. Okay, that's always politically a good thing. No, that's okay. We had a little scheduling snafu. It's all good. We're going to reschedule that to December 14th and look forward to hosting that event with the league and local city officials and council. You're more than welcome to attend along with staff. So that's all I have for my update.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So just to highlight a few things here, starting with economic development. We did not hold our economic development meeting today. We had canceled that. The JR Mobile property affidavit of service was issued for the repair and removal of that building, so the clock has started for that. We have seen a significant uptick in interest in the industrial park area. One of that's evident as earlier item on the agenda tonight, but also some other significant inquiries that I think will rise to Planning Commission and Council, hopefully. So that's good. Planning Commission met yesterday. I went through that ordinance amendment request, also had continued discussion on cannabis, THC, and zoning. They did not anticipate any zoning changes as part of that discussion. Going down to other, letter of intent for a grant application. We did submit for Northland Drive Trail Extension. We will, if we're invited for a full grant submittal, we'll bring that to the council resolution. That grant source would be 2027 construction, but we have the ability to advance construct that. So our goal would be to time that with the Elm Street and other improvements, whether that's 2024 or 2025 or whatever that ends up being. Going down to meetings and events, towards the end of October, I did attend an event called EPIC, which is Exploring Potential Interests and Careers. That's an event that focuses on high school age students and was held at the Tech and Community College, and it was really a wonderful event. We had over 4,100 students from 30 high schools attend the event. So it was super awesome to be a part of that and try to introduce folks to future careers in government. Randy and I met with Excel Energy regarding their intent to replace some power lines. We're gonna have more information on that in the forthcoming months. We kind of left it where they're gonna be creating some different graphics, and we'll have some discussion probably at a workshop in regards to that. We also met with Great River Energy, and this isn't on the report, but I'll add this. Great River Energy is upgrading their lines as well. So we've been trying to relay some comments and feedback to them on those. Early November, I attended the GSDC Innovation Awards over in East St. Cloud. Great opportunity for networking and great event. And then the CVB, we met yesterday. And CVB, we talked about the Shop Small Crawl coming up. And then also, we had received an Explore Minnesota grant, and we talked about some utilization of that remaining grant. We have until the end of December to utilize that money. So we talked about different initiatives to utilize the remaining money. So, any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
I would hope Public Works would be involved in there, okay? And LCCMR work plan discussion with SEH, that's the park facility, East Park?
Yeah, yep, so essentially, they just relayed some comments in regards to our application, so we just have to basically respond back to some of those comments. Some of them is technical, like the name of the title and some other things, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
The November 18th local transportation brainstorm, what's that about?
Yeah, so that's where we're gonna kind of talk about the industrial park area in 24th Avenue. So we anticipate having some discussion on that, and then bringing the council into that after that, some of that staff discussion.
Would you want to include Westwood Parkway in that as well? I mean, I submitted that to the APO, because I don't remember where this started, but the discussion between Westwood Parkway industrial to St. Cloud residential, where it's supposed to connect, is I don't want to say a missed opportunity, but it's kind of a conflict of uses. The extension east of Westwood Parkway from where our property, where St. Joanne's, was supposed to be an industrial park into, St. Cloud West Industrial Park. Well, it's not anymore. It's residential. So I asked APO, can we, since it's APO Industrial Park and it's not got St. Cloud support, can we modify that route? Can we accommodate? And so I think APO was supposed to be reaching out to you guys about having a brainstorm session with either St. Cloud or just us to start with.
Okay.
Did anybody?
I haven't heard, have you, Randy?
Just last week, I guess at the APO TAC meeting, Brian Gibson mentioned
Okay.
that conversation with you.
We
but-
didn't have an APO meeting this month or next month. That's why I thought he was gonna reach out to you guys.
So he reached out, but we haven't scheduled any type
Okay.
of a
Okay.
meeting with APO staff.
That's what's coming, okay? And I assume he's gonna get both you guys involved. I just said this is, since it's not a St. Cloud funded or aided position, and we have maybe some transportation needs that we wanna modify in the industrial park, what can we do? And so they were gonna get you guys together and just, what are our options kind of thing. They're also gonna find long-term some grant money to do a full study out there. So I don't know if that's gonna be in 2023 or not. But that should come up as well. Sorry, I didn't mean to surprise you guys. I thought you had reached out after we talked last week.
Yeah,
Okay.
no worries.
Just that you
Yeah,
talked.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, sorry. That's all I have. That's all I have a question. Yeah,
I got
Bob.
one question, back on the JR Mobile. Okay, that was, basically, the owner was served October 18th.
Correct.
Okay, today is what, the 16th? And I believe that order reads like a 30-day or something like that.
60-day.
Is it a 60-day?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So-
So early December, I believe, is,
Okay, so there's been no feedback from him on either taking us to court or complying or anything of that nature?
we have not got a response.
Okay.
Yep.
So what's the procedure, let's say comes to December, whatever the date may be, and it's not done. So then,
Yeah, so that's probably a legal question. I believe we have certain jurisdiction within that issue that had been served
a certain date,
that
stuff,
allows the
people,
city
et
to,
cetera, and all that good stuff there.
yeah, but I'd have to defer to legal on exactly the route we'd have
Yeah,
to,
I'd like to see something where, you know, what is what.
yeah.
Next steps, yeah, we'll get
Yeah.
next steps for you
Okay.
on the legal side.
Very good,
Yep.
thank you. Any other questions? Thanks, Nate.
Yep, you're welcome.
Fire. Oh, we don't have a microphone for you.
Shouldn't we have a place for him, actually? I think we requested that last year. Is there any possible way that we could get Fire a position
Not
in
with-
that? He's just as important.
Really not without extending the.
He can have
Yeah.
mine.
Ha, and you can leave.
Which one of us do you wanna get rid of?
Yeah.
Just kidding. That may be difficult to do
Yeah.
without either cramping them
Well,
or.
we do have an empty one right over here if he'd like to sit on the end.
How about if we work on that and come back?
We had
with
that
some
argument
That would
thoughts?
be
10
great.
years ago, we're not doing
We'll come
that.
back up with
Thank
some
you.
ideas.
Could just
Thank
add
you,
it.
Jeff.
Okay.
Good evening. Just our monthly report. Starting off with our call volume continues to go up. As of the 8th, we were at 535. We had 16 calls since then up to today, so 551. Looking, still pushing that 600 number. Membership, out of the 6 new members we had start last year, 2 of them are completed with all their classes. 4 of them completed their first responder class. They're good to go on medical calls and do hands-on. Those 4 will be starting firefighter 1, firefighter 2 hazmat hopefully by the first of the year. We do have 5 applications, and our investigating committee will be setting up a time soon to be doing interviews and agility testing. Pumper tanker update was pushed to January. I talked to him at the Chiefs Conference. It is now pushed to April or May of next year. Production issues, supply issues, it's about the only explanation he had. So they used to do 18 trucks a month, they're down to 12. So not much we can do about that. Grass rig committee met and we took final numbers back to the fire board last night. We got approval to move forward with building purchasing of our new grass rig truck. Fire study still working on getting all the material they need. Grants, have not heard any good news on the grants that are out there, and we'll continue to look for more grants to help offset some of the costs. And chief and assistant attended the annual Chiefs Conference in Duluth on October 19th through the 22nd. Questions from anybody? What's that?
The fire study?
The end date?
Yeah, do you have,
It's like 6 months, once we get them all the cities get all the material to them, they put it
Okay.
together. Roughly, it'll take 6 months, once they get all the material, and then
okay.
I
they'll
think we
do a
need,
couple site visits with each town, with each chief, with some people's just regular firefighters, possibly finance, possibly administrative.
So another 6 months after that.
hey, I wanna know what the start date is.
Of the study?
Yeah,
The study has started,
September
Has it?
22nd.
Yeah,
yes. It's,
September
that's why I was
22nd.
asking. 'cause
right
it
now,
was
it's just the
three
process of
Yep, September 22nd.
the city, myself,
Yes,
probably
three
Lori a
months.
little bit once I get into it. And each city getting all the material that they want to them,
okay,
so.
very good. Other questions? Very good, thanks, chief.
Okay.
Finance, Lori.
Finance is doing great.
Any
Just
questions?
go from one project to the next. So Vicki and I have been working on the water worth financial modeling for water and sewer, and we will be happy to show you the results of that at our workshop next week, as we also talk about our fee schedule, that being a key component of that. So we're pretty excited about what the model does show, and how it can help us better assign when a project might be more feasible to handle and when not, and what that impact might be on the residents. As Jeff said, I sat in the capital campaign committee meeting And we're working through, I'm working with Greg on his pro forma numbers for the community center. Once we get through that, then we're going to kind of finalize the lease agreement. We have been working closely with the attorneys on that, and we're very close to having something to present. So hopefully within the next month or so, we'll have that lease agreement for the council to consider. I have been sitting in on negotiations. We had the police union a couple of weeks ago, and we met with the Ask Me union this week. Jeff and I have been sitting in on those, and they've been very productive, and hope to have something in December, I think, for consideration for the council on those contracts. Working on open enrollment with the employees, and just a little report on utility billing is the September bill that was sent out was due October 15th. We had 156 late at that time. We sent out 96 reminders that we were going to be disconnecting on November 3rd. And when it came to November 3rd, we had about 12 customers that we did end up disconnecting. One, I think, is still disconnected due to vacancy in that residence. But otherwise, everybody else has been connected, and seems to be a pretty smooth process. We changed that process last summer with just doing mail notices, and that seems to be going well. We're seeing about the same statistics as far as those that we disconnect. I know we do a lot trying to send out reminders, hey, it's due, hey, we haven't seen it. If you're a landlord, hey, we haven't seen your payments come in, you know, we're gonna be shutting off. So we do take extra effort. Public Works takes effort, you know, knocks on doors too. Can we, you know, we're gonna be shutting you off if we don't get a payment in. So that really has helped us to get down to, you know, just a dozen that we end up having to disconnect. So the process, as we've modified it, seems to be working. I have Debbie Kutzer that started on October 24th, same day as Jeff. So we're working on training, going through things, fast and furious with everything going on. So she's doing well. And as I said, Vicki and I have been meeting with Waterworth to go through that financial modeling. So a couple meetings coming up. Just some of those Nate mentioned, we're getting some inquiries on the industrial park, so we just want to make sure that we understand like some of the street infrastructure and what's going to happen to try to stay ahead of the game before, you know, a real application comes in the mail. Get us ahead of the game for that and in that planning effort. So any questions?
Anyone? Thank you, Lori. Public Works, Ryan?
Mayor, council, staff. I have been attending those transmission line reroute meetings for potential reroute. We did finish up street sweeping for the season. Just barely. The 40-mile-an-hour straight winds didn't help us out. We pretty much had to start over again throughout the city. Been working on some grant applications, attending staff meetings. The Morningside Loop storm drain construction is about 99% complete. Randy, correct me if I'm wrong, we're just waiting on the curb cut, which we're not gonna do this fall yet. We're gonna do it right and wait for the spring.
Okay.
Jack Frost kinda snuck up on us there, so.
They're actually still gonna cut the curb so that drainage can get over it, so they're actually gonna soften the back of it. So it won't look necessarily pretty, but the same function will be there, and then we'll tackle the concrete work
Next
spring. Yeah.
Okay.
This Thursday morning, you should see C&L in town. We did have an accident last week on 4th Southeast in Minnesota. They did take out a hydrant, so they should be in town repairing that hydrant. Don't know what's gonna happen, if they gotta come into the street or not, but we'll put up put in some temp bituminous for the winter if they need to come out in the street. So you'll see that action going on Thursday. Staff, pretty much business as normal. We've now added snow removal to our events. Upcoming meetings. Nothing really out of the ordinary with that, other than winter walk setup, you will see that happening this weekend. So, pending any questions?
None for me. Anybody else?
Nope.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan. Police, chief?
We'll see if I can get through this without any questions too, but we'll see how this goes. So kind of a summary, like Jeff said too with the fire, obviously calls are up. I did put in for the council for this particular month that if you actually look at what we processed in calls for October of '22 as opposed to 2021, we're down about 25 to 30 calls, but when you look back at 2020, 2019, we're still consistently trending upward and stuff like that. So as we talked about earlier in our previous meeting, Rick and I attended, and Jeff was there as well. We talked about with college officials, St. Ben Security, Dean of Students, just kind of talking about trends and what we're seeing. There's some concern about alcohol and usage amongst minors, and trying to do some brainstorming, trying to figure out some things that are going to go along with that. Obviously try to get ahead of things in spring. On October 31st was Halloween night. It was actually very well attended in town. A lot of trucks, trailers, a lot of people out and about. I think it was a very good event. It seemed like it was very safe. We had a lot of officers out driving around through the neighborhoods. That worked out really well. Unfortunately, after midnight, it became November 1st, and that kind of set off our parking 2021 or 2022 with a bang. And there was a numerous amount of parking tickets that were written for the 2 a.m. to 7 a.m. violation. Had it have been 2 weeks later like it is now, things probably wouldn't have been nearly as contested. So I also gave you guys a little bit of a history of how we got to where we were after we were talking at our department head meeting this last week. City Administrator Jeff had thought maybe it would be good to give you guys a little history of where the police department's been at so far. So if you can follow along, basically in 2013 is when the previous police chief took over. He kind of got rid of the warning ticket system. That was his vision, trying to keep it consistent. We've just kind of kept moving right along with that. Some things just to think about amongst all the tickets that have been handed out for starting on November 1st. Some of the complaints that I took this past week or 2 weeks ago, when I actually discussed it with some of the citizens that were complaining, I said, if it isn't November 1st, if it's November 5th, November 10th, November 25th, or whatever that date is, there's always going to be tickets written out on the first day. So I don't know what the answer is. I don't have that answer. But no matter what, you're always going to have tickets. As a former nighttime car, I used to hand out tons of written warnings, or a lot of these tags that we'd hand on there. And consistently, whether you give out warning tickets for the last 2 weeks of October, the first 2 weeks of November, people will accumulate these warnings on their front seat until the first night of tickets are issued, and you always see a spike that first night. So I don't know what the answer is. I did do some research online this past week. Even the news leader advertises in Sartell's section that they do electronic signs. They do it with their water bill, utility bills. They try to get the word out. They've got signs up, and they still end up writing citations. Parking tickets are just nature of the beast. So enough on that. And then this past week at our department head meeting, we discussed it was kind of the last administration that decided we were going to stop issuing parking tickets on the grass through the police department and issue them through zoning. And we found out that there was a lot of extra follow-up on Nate's part. First, we'd have to have an officer observe the violation, or a complaint would come into the city. The officer would then take a picture of the car, forward it off to myself or one of the sergeants, who would then forward it to Nate for consistency. Nate would have to then send out a letter, and then he would have to drive around and verify that compliance was done, I think, within like 7 days. And it's just a really cumbersome process versus just issuing a $20 ticket for parking on the grass if it is an alleged offense. So we had some discussion. It was a lot quicker for staff time to go back to the way it was. So as far as staff and upcoming events, I have nothing to report at this time, other than we do have a meeting that I learned about tonight coming up on the 28th of November that Rick and I will be attending for the St. John's Joint Senate. If you have any questions, I will entertain those.
Homecoming. How did it go this weekend?
Homecoming was not this weekend.
Or was it 2 weekends ago?
I think it was the last weekend of
Not
September.
homecoming.
Yeah, it was
Sorry,
really-
MIAC Championships is what I meant this past Saturday.
MIAC Championship.
That's the one I meant.
Nothing stands out or came to my attention,
Yeah,
at least.
Okay.
It was too cold to do anything outside.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
All right, thanks, chief. Committee board reports, well, APO didn't meet, Nate kinda went over with CVB. Are there any other boards or?
Fire board met, we had some good talks, but chief kinda talked
Covered
about
that as
what we
well.
did, and we'll, bring it more to the 22nd work session meeting.
Okay. So mayor report, I just have a couple of things. The, League of Minnesota Cities Board met, and there's three things that came out of that. Number one, just kind of a piece of information. I know we voted down the local option sales tax, but 21 jurisdictions got the ability to put it before the voters, and 18 of those 21 passed it. Wade Park's one of them. So when you go to Wade Park, you'll be paying an extra sales tax for them to fix up their roads and do other things. There was a benchmark study commissioned by the League of Minnesota Cities on the use of police body cameras. And the two highlights that came out of that was, number one, liability issues almost disappeared, and legal issues, legal challenges disappeared because of the footage. So I think as soon as we can move on those, we'll be in much better condition. And all the policy positions for the League of Minnesota City are complete. They're gonna be published on their website this week. This week is Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities Board, and at that meeting, we'll have our policy positions and published the following week. So, any questions? Okay. Item 14.
Mayor and
what?
council.
Was there one?
If I was gonna show a couple of photographs as a follow-up to Ryan's report on
sure.
Morningside, just to give you a
Sure,
visual.
absolutely.
So we'll scan through these really quick. So this is the backside of the lots, the additional riprap that was added. So Hill Street and Third Avenue is to the right on this photograph. So we're kind of looking at the back of the homes in Morningside. This is the overflow swale along the lot line out to the street. So we basically created a big V.
Going right
that-
across the utilities?
Yes, so fortunately, private utilities were primarily limited to the boulevard at the front end of the lot, and then at the back end, there was some power that was buried, but otherwise, the lot line itself was
Right in the
clean,
middle?
fortunately.
That's-
So, it's a little tough to tell, but the storm sewer apron, the 21-inch pipe is sticking
There.
out in this area. We still have an overflow catch basin, so that's kind of the second line of defense is if water for some reason can't get into the apron, it can get into this storm sewer casting here. And then lastly, it would overflow into that ditch I was just showing you previously. So this is looking from the street up the hill. You can kind of see those pedestals and
Yeah.
how much earth was removed along the lot line.
That catch area still looks tiny.
And then this is the catch, this is the curb that we're talking about that we would cut out temporarily. So we'll cut the back of the curb out
To the left of the catch basin?
to the left of the catch basin, yes.
Okay.
And then this is what it looked like, I suppose a week and a half ago before the snow fall. So contractor did reestablish the sod, it's staked. So if we do get a spring melt event, that sod is staked in place.
Looks good.
Nice.
Thank you, Randy. Anything else, anyone? Item 14, if nothing else?
I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and second to adjourn. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, we are adjourned. Counselors, don't leave, we have to sign this.
Yeah, right.
It'll be right next year.
You know, where it breaks it down, like my age and stuff.